Good morning. Welcome to the Breakfast Show. 17 minutes past 7 is the time. More on our top story now on BBC Essex. As we've been hearing in the news with Tom, Paul Battersbee, whose son Archie is at the centre of a life support legal row, has now been taken to hospital himself with a suspected heart attack or stroke. Now, he became ill just moments before 3 judges ruled that doctors could stop treatment for his 12-year-old son. This is a very sad case that we've been following quite closely here on BBC Essex because, of course, the family are from Southend and they're now asking judges at the European Court of Human Rights to intervene after losing this latest row of their treatment fight for Archie. So I'm going to talk now to Professor David Albert Jones, who is director of the Anscombe Bioethics Centre. And Professor David's been following this case closely, studied similar cases as well in the past, such as one involving Charlie Gard, which made the news a few years ago. Good morning to you, David.
Good morning.
Good morning. So what do you think about where we're at and the latest that was decided yesterday with regards to this case?
So I think that legally speaking, we are almost at the end of the road, really. It started in the High Court, it went to appeal, it went back to the High Court, it went back to appeal, and the appeal court said, you've got 48 hours, you can appeal to the European Court of Human Rights. But in my experience, the European Court of Human Rights very, very rarely overturns national courts in these kind of cases. So I think that it's almost certainly at the end of the road within the next 48 hours.
And it's, as I mentioned earlier, and when we've covered this before on BBC Essex, it is a very difficult scenario for all parties involved. But of course, for Archie's parents and the devastating news that Archie's dad's now been taken unwell as well.
Oh yeah, absolutely terrible, and not so unusual that in these sort of cases where you have a severely ill child, and it goes to court, that it has a huge impact on the parents, on their relationship, and on their health. It's almost it's a bit like a divorce. Once people go to court and it becomes acrimonious, it just gets worse and worse. And it must be it's a terrible thing to have a child so ill, and no chance of recovery. But for the legal battle has just made it worse, I think.
Is there anything, do you think, that needs to be changed in terms of the law around this? Because when I've spoken about it before, obviously they treat Archie, they have a representative to represent Archie separately, don't they, to the parents? So does that need to change, do you think? Should the parents be listened to? Should there be greater weight to the parents' thoughts in this?
Well, I think absolutely. I mean, it's the first thing is it's better not to go to court, and it's better if these things can be negotiated through mediation, and usually that happens. But if they go to court, I think in the first instance, it should be assumed that the parents care about their child and know their child. That's what should be assumed. And it's only if you have shown that they're being unreasonable that you should then appoint somebody else. But what happens is if you have a dispute with the parents and the doctor, then you get a court-appointed guardian who then comes in as though they know the child better than the parents. And there's no reason to think they know the child better than the parents in this case. And I think it just... Again, that makes it worse because you then they attribute things to the child, to Archie. This is what Archie would have wanted, and if people know him who disagree, then that just seems to adds insult to injury. And so I think that the way in which the law is framed is not helpful.
Yeah, and these sorts of things, as you say, they try to avoid getting to this point where at all possible. But are these sorts of disputes quite common, and differences in opinion between loved ones and medical profession? Do you see quite a lot of it, but it doesn't perhaps get quite as far through the legal processes as what this particular case has?
Well, there have been a number of cases. So you mentioned Charlie Gard. There was also Alfie Evans. There was Pippa Knight. There was Alta Fixler. There have been a number of such cases. Most cases don't go to court. Most cases, hundreds of cases a year, they have to withdraw treatment of a very ill child. And usually the doctors and the parents are on the same page with it, and there is mutual trust. But sometimes the trust breaks down, and then people go to court. I think there are problems with the way in which the court procedure goes.
Thank you for coming on. Thank you for explaining it all for us as well. That is Professor David Albert Jones, who's director of the Anscombe Bioethics Centre, been following this case closely.